Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Yeah, thank you for joining us today. I'm Halima Aliyu, the business coordinator and strategist at MC Drink Concept Limited. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the fourth edition of African Real Estate and Business Insight. Thank you once again for honoring my invitation to participate in this forum. I'm very much excited to, I'm very much excited to have an excellent lineup of experts who will share their practical insight in order to move the sector forward. So without wasting much time, I'm just going to. The question is, what are the biggest barrier to unlocking capital and partnership for housing and infrastructure today? Yemi
Hello.
from Ghana.
Hello, good afternoon.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can.
Welcome.
Halima.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Okay. So Professor Kelly basically touched on everything. I thought he gave a well rounded presentation. So some of the barriers basically I find for Africa is that we have challenges within Africa ourselves. You know, we have the issue of governmental and political instability, which is a deterrent for so many of these investors who want to come in. Okay. You know, the idea of, quick governments just quickly changing hands and everything. Any investor wants to know that they're coming in on a terrain where everything is stable, interest rates, mortgage rates, everything, so that, you know, they can even plan for themselves with all these finances they're helping us to develop our country. So that is one of the problems I find, that political instability and these macroeconomic fluctuations make the whole situation volatile and a deterrent for investors. Another point I like to talk about is corruption and crime within Africa. Corruption is rife, okay? You know, you have situations of politicians having cars, money being found in politicians' cars, you know, lump sums of money. So, you know, for the investor who wants to come and help us, you're thinking, is it a safe place to even invest my money? Because within Africa themselves, they are not helping themselves. So corruption and crime, I find, is also a major problem. Investors frequently talk about bribery and unethical practices, you know, like adding additional costs to the bills, or all the cost of the projects. These are all risks that no investor wants to, partake in. We also have administrative barriers. You know, we have all these little, what we call it, bureaucratic things before things get done. You know, everybody wants to have something under the table before you'll even push something that's going to benefit the country. You know, and if we, like people, some of the speakers said, if we don't change our own mindset and realize that we want to improve our country, these things will definitely not help us and not make us go in the right direction in terms of improving our housing and even infrastructure. Okay, so as I said, cumbersome bureaucracy and the regulatory issues. You know, you have situations where the government, so we have in Ghana the GIPC. Okay, now to get through to Ghana to be an investor, you have to go through the GIPC. Now, I see that Ghana, the last government, tried to even speeden up new companies that want to come in to invest in Ghana, to help Ghana, through these with this new laws to help support the whole framework of getting people to invest. But I don't know whether it's improved, because we still are lacking the investment we need in Ghana, especially where we see that the housing deficit is about 1.3 billion, I think, and we definitely need investment from impact investors, from the development financial institutions, and we have to, within ourselves as Africans, if we don't solve our own problems, we're not expecting investors to come and help us solve our problems when we ourselves don't realize we have these problems to help ourselves. And these are some of the factors I think that we have to look at, and hope that these will help the investor see that, okay, the challenges that are thinking, they are thinking of the risks and all these, they are not as bad because the African themselves is willing and is ready to help with the investment. These are my few topics that, because I think everybody has covered quite a bit on it. So I think this is what I would have talked about, is that the African themselves, are we willing, our mindset, are we ready to improve our lot in terms of housing and infrastructure, because we don't have the finance ourselves. So somebody, an impact investor or somebody is going to come and help us. But we have to be truthful, we have to be honest, and, so that the risk for the investor is not too great. This is what I wanted to talk about.
Now, my second question is, since we already have these challenges, we know what our challenges, what can we do differently to attract more investors and build better collaborations? With all these challenges we're currently facing, what can we actually do differently to attract investors?
Okay, so I think, yes, to attract investments and investors, I think the environment has to be friendly, okay, for these investors. So, or you offer incentives, like tax holidays, etc., for these investors, so that they know that it's not really just of giving, but you're appreciating what they're doing for you. You also try and streamline your processes, your bureaucratic processes, so that you try and reduce all these administrative hurdles within Africa, because we are really fond of, when something gets to somebody's desk, unless something is put on the table, it's not going to go through. And these sort of things just slow down the process, and it doesn't help us at all. So these are the kind of things that we need to, try and improve, so the investor, again, feels that, it's not the waste of their time. And then you also try and provide support services for the investors, including, something like promotion agencies, where the investor can feel that, yes, all this is not a waste of my funds. So these are some of the things that I think that, promoting investment friendly environment. And then again, it comes down to our transparency and governance. It's really important that we improve our transparency and our governance issues, because it's a great deterrent for any investor. Make sure that your regulatory frameworks and laws are working, they are consistent, and there are no loopholes that anybody can try and make a fast buck of the investor. The governance, there should be decision making should be transparent. Transparency is very important for an investor. If it's coming and everything is shrouded in secrecy and you don't know, nobody feels safe. So it's a risk and people will not want to take it. And then accountability as well. Everybody should be accountable for, especially putting together these costs. There should be a reason. Everything should be, stated clearly, so the investor does not think. See, the perception out there is that within Africa, everybody wants something before anything more. They want a 1% or want this or they want that. That should be removed from the investor's mind, and people should realize that I'm coming to invest, and nobody's going to ask me for their, in quote, cut. You see, so these are the kind of things that we have to try as the African people, to try and get out of the investor's mind. Otherwise, I don't think we're going to get much assistance. These are the small things I can talk about.
Okay, there's a second question in the house. Why do we Africans want to only rely on foreign investment? What's so hard about we Africans generating capital amongst ourselves? African problems are best solved by African solutions.
Well, that's very interesting, So, take for example, when recently Donald Trump came and decided to do away with the US aid, and everybody was saying, yes, Africa now has to take their own, take the bull by the horns and sort their own problems out. Again, it comes down to trust, and amongst ourselves, even giving out information about our wealth and our, it's sort of exposure. So Africans don't really like to let everybody know what really, I think, especially in Ghana, what they're really worth, you see. So it's all about keeping quiet and hoping that, nobody knows what they can do to invest. Because when you find that you get yourself involved in all these things, people sort of have they call in Ghana, it's called the pull him down syndrome, and all of a sudden, what you were hoping to help people with, you end up with nothing. So we have coups and presidents and people coming and taking over, and then your assets and everything is seized, and you end up with nothing. And you probably had good intention. So these are some of the things that makes it difficult for the African to even decide to help the African, or especially in Ghana. I find people are not willing to let people know how much they can do or what they can do, because before you know it, you end up with nothing. So it goes to a lot of issues. It's trust within the African, especially in Ghana, trust within ourselves that oh, this person, yes, is going to do this for the. Then they start to wonder, where did you get the funds from? And then they start to so it's very difficult to decide to invest in projects in Africa, because you are then laid bare, and everybody then starts to dig to find out. So it's not a very easy solution to try and get Africans to invest in their own countries, especially I find in my country, Ghana.
Okay, thank you very much. I think is what ASU just has said, and